Night City is home to countless different cars, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. From stylish Japanese sports cars, to Chinese economy sedans, to hardened military APCs. While lots of the automotive companies in Night City focus on creating cars, there are others who are focused on their two-wheeled alternative. Motorcycles are a convenient and high-speed way to navigate labyrinthine streets, and to evade the NCPD when you've been up to no good. There's one company who's known for making motorcycles so fast that they can quickly turn your insides out. They're often ridden by edge runners and gang members who put safety just about last on their list of desired attributes when they're picking out a vehicle. The most iconic vehicle made by Yaiba is the Kusanagi CT-3X motorcycle. The Kusanagi has 183 horsepower. This is enough to have fun in a lightweight car, except this isn't a car, so that means it has 0.37 horsepower per pound. For reference, the Chiron Supersport 300 Plus made by Bugatti, which goes an insane 304 miles per hour, only makes 0.35 horsepower per pound. The Kusanagi has an almost industrial-looking design. It looks as though aesthetics and performance were definitely the primary concern, and comfort was just an afterthought. It's hard to talk about the Kusanagi without talking about its major inspiration. If you haven't already guessed, this bike draws heavy inspiration from Kaneda's bike in the classic 1988 anime film Akira. While it doesn't share the upright seat position, the CT-3X variant shares a similar windshield and color scheme. It also shares some of the same bulky and retro-futuristic styling. This is an important reference because Akira was a genre-defining film that paved the way for a lot of the aesthetics that the term cyberpunk calls to mind. It quite literally drew up the idea of a dark and grungy dystopian cityscape in an iconic anime style. The Akira comic book, or manga, started in 1982, with the film releasing in 1988. For reference, the manga started in the same year as Ridley Scott's legendary film Blade Runner released. Akira and Blade Runner are some of the most important media that would kind of define the art style and general vibe that you get in cyberpunk universes. So the Yaiba Kusanagi CT-3X has an important role as a kind of tribute or monument to these very first films and pieces of media that defined what cyberpunk would eventually become. As far as real-world inspirations go, the Kusanagi somewhat calls to mind superbikes like the Suzuki Hayabusa. The extended wheelbase and insane power output really puts this bike into a class of its own, one that's usually only occupied by modified street bikes. And while these might technically be categorized as motorcycles, they're really more in a category like lethal street missiles. Riding the Kusanagi is a harsh experience, even when compared with other motorcycles in Night City. It gets going so fast, so quickly, that being able to turn sort of becomes an afterthought. And when you do, it's not uncommon for the rear end to kick out and send you hurtling across the street. But you know, it's not about the destination, it's about the horrible and painful injuries that you get along the way. The Muramasa ASM-R250 is the peak of Yaiba motorcycle making. Available only through custom order at Yaiba's remote showroom, this motorcycle looks completely unique riding through the streets of Night City. Despite sharing the same powertrain, this bike uses an almost contradictory stance in motorcycle making when compared to the Kusanagi. As opposed to being rough and mechanical, it has a streamlined and aerodynamic appearance. In many ways, this bike looks a bit more traditional and normal than the Kusanagi. But there are also elements that this bike can be outfitted with which make it look more like a light cycle directly out of Tron. The Muramasa benefits from what sounds like a slightly more refined version of the Kusanagi's engine with 187 horsepower. The riding experience of the Muramasa is different from that of the Kusanagi. Where the Kusanagi feels rough and unforgiving, the Muramasa feels smooth and refined. One feels like a rough and irritable horse unaccustomed to being ridden, and the other feels more like a well-broken and thoroughbred steed. The Kusanagi can be seen ridden by gang members and miscreants. Meanwhile, the Muramasa appeals to a different level of consumer, someone who appreciates the finer details of two-wheeled vehicles. Perhaps a corporate higher-up who wants to blow off some steam by cutting through traffic on a bike worthy of their pedigree. Or perhaps a Yaiba fanatic who has experienced everything that the Kusanagi platform can offer and wants that final upgrade. Not everyone who appreciates Yaiba has the chance to own a Muramasa. That's what makes it special. It's the bike for those privileged few, those who have earned the good graces of Night City and have been granted the rare privilege of riding Yaiba's premium motorcycle. Part of what makes the Muramasa so rare is that it can only be purchased through the Yaiba remote showroom. This is a rare privilege given only to the company's most respected patrons. The Muramasa is one of those rare bikes that draws attention the same way that an exotic car can. While most motorcycles serve as a more affordable solution to get extreme speed or unmatched freedom, this one serves as a testament to what can be accomplished engineering on two wheels, if you're willing to pay, both out of your deep pockets and the loyalty from your heart. However, all of that being said, Yaiba's engineering doesn't entirely peak with the Muramasa, nor even on two wheels. As far as I can tell, there's only one Yaiba Semimaru in Night City. And furthermore, there aren't even many others across the globe. A concept vehicle created by Yaiba's best engineers, this car is just a mad dog. With all-wheel drive and 1690 horsepower, in raw performance, it's a match for even cars like the Rayfield Caliburn. And that's a bit like saying a sword is a match for Excalibur. The Semimaru shares styling cues with a few different cars. For one, it's reminiscent of the exotic look of Japanese supercars like the Lexus LFA and even the Toyota GR-GT, which it technically predates. It also shares some lines with the Mark V Toyota Supra. If I had to look back in time, I'd say it could possibly trace its design lineage back to the S30 Nissan Fairlady Z, which was known in the United States as the Datsun 240Z. The other thing that stands out to me about the Semimaru is that it seems very purpose-built. It reminds me of cars like the KTM Crossbow models. These are track toys made by a motorcycle manufacturer, KTM. They show off what can be accomplished on four wheels using lightweight construction and the lessons learned from skilled motorcycle engineering. The Semimaru specimen that can be found in Night City has an interesting story. It was meticulously put together by two people seeking to specifically put together a car that was intrinsically capable of drifting. They replaced many pieces on this car until they were able to assemble it into a completely functional vehicle. The car was eventually impounded by the NCPD until some corrupt officers began using it to run down edge runners and steal their scores. Of course, while touting that they were actually doing it just to clean up the city. It was then stolen from them by street racers who had obvious intentions for it. The Semimaru glides down the streets with an agile and lightweight feel. It doesn't look like any other car in Night City, and it doesn't drive like any other car in Night City. As opposed to the Rayfield Caliburn, which propels you to ungodly speeds in extreme comfort and ease, the Semimaru drives a bit more like a track toy, with lighter handling. It turns on a dime and accelerates on nothing but a whim, and it feels like you can get a lot closer to that razor's edge of handling. It's a car that's clearly built more for an experienced driver than for the comfort of an overpaid corpo. The interior of the Semimaru is well crafted and minimalist. It uses high-quality leathers and up-to-date digital displays. While it's not as contemporary or futuristic as a Mizutani, and it's not quite as luxurious as a Rayfield, It's definitely beautiful in its own way. I really appreciate how it really doesn't look like any other manufacturer's interiors. It's definitely its own thing, and I think that speaks to how it comes from a motorcycle manufacturer instead of a car manufacturer. Nobody's buying the Semimaru just because they want the best interior. They're buying it because it's significant in other ways. The Lexus LFA had no cup holders, but it was significant because it was a rare supercar from Lexus. The Semimaru might be simpler than other mainstream cars, but it's still noteworthy because it's Yaiba's very best attempt at making a car. Vincent van Gogh was one of the great painters of all time, but had he had the chance to make a movie, I'm sure a lot of people would have gone to see it just to find out what he made. Of course, he only passed 2 years after the very first video camera was ever made, so he kinda missed that boat. And Yaiba might have missed out on the chance to make cars instead of motorcycles, but the Semimaru is a testament to what their engineers can accomplish. Before I wrap up, I'm going to do a quick exhaust showcase of Yaiba's 3 mainstay vehicles. Yaiba appeals to a lot of the most fringe members of Night City, edge runners, gang members, people who go against the grain. But they also make vehicles for the elite. Between the Kusanagi, the Muramasa, and the Semimaru, there's something for all lovers of speed and thrills. While many manufacturers in Night City claim to offer speed, many of their vehicles are tainted with other purposes: practicality, aesthetics, luxury. Yaiba tends to forego this, not only through the inherent design philosophy of motorcycles, but also through their constant pursuit to create highly engineered vehicles. Vehicles that are fast enough to rip the skin off your face and care less about your safety than the sanitation inspectors at your local All Foods. Yaiba cares for one thing: bringing speed and thrills to all of their consumers, regardless of their tax bracket. That's the reason that Yaiba is the company that brought speed to every street in Night City.